All right, I think we can get going here. It's about 12:02. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. If you don't know me, my name is Jeff Degner. I'm one of the partners here at Ausperity Private Wealth. I want to start by, I guess, addressing the fact that we host these monthly webinars and all of which are, educational for clients. We're shifting focus here a little bit, off of the financial topics or tax planning and Roth conversion strategies, and we're going to focus a little bit on health and wellness. An advisor, or I was at a conference recently, and I heard another advisor share something that really hit home, and I've stolen it and used it. But he tells his clients that we are likely, if we're doing our jobs correctly, we're likely going to run out of health before we run out of money. And in which case, health and wellness should be one of your largest expenditures. And I think that really hits home for a lot, especially in this day and age. Before we get going, I will thank, or I should thank, our team, Jen, Monica, Mike, everyone, and Chris's team for organizing this and putting this together, as well as our partners at Victory Capital, Rich, Davoli, and folks, thank you. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about health, and no one better than Chris Johnson, founder and CEO of On Target Living. To introduce Chris, he's best known as Grandpa Pancake. He inspires people to take small steps to healthy living through his signature Rest, Eat, Move program. Growing up in Michigan, Chris likes to say that he was raised by wolves. Rode in cars without seatbelts. He didn't come home until the street lights came on. Lived on beefaroni, white bread, and Kool-Aid. His first jobs were working long hours on the assembly line at General Motors, driving a Frito-Lay's truck and peanut butter bread truck for 15-hour shifts. Here, he learned firsthand how food, exercise, and sleep played a role in his physical, mental, overall gut health. Now, as an exercise physiologist, best-selling author, founder of On Target Living, and host of the On Target Living podcast, Chris Johnson travels the world teaching organizations and people how to feel their best. Please help me welcome the world's leading expert on health and human performance, Chris Johnson. Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, and welcome everybody. And as Jeff mentioned, who is this guy? He's driving a Frito-Lay truck, but I'm going to begin real quickly just to kind of give it a little housekeeping. We'll do some Q&A at the very end today. So if you have any questions, just put them into the chat, and then Jeff will ask some questions to me. I also will give you my private email at the end today. So again, if you have something to write with, I would recommend grabbing a piece of paper, something to write with. And again, if you have any questions at the very end and you don't get on, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you, and I will respond to you. And many times I'll get on the phone with you. So I want to begin with this. Just a quick introduction. As Jeff mentioned, I was not a healthy guy growing up. I had psoriasis, eczema, digestive health issues. The doctors gave me oral meds, topical creams. Nothing seemed to work. Your son just has sensitive skin. I didn't. I was a terrible eater. As he mentioned, I was consuming beefaroni and SpaghettiOs and Kool-Aid and Pepsi and everything I was doing, but nobody ever told me what I was eating and drinking made my gut health. And we talk a lot about gut health today. So I was not a healthy guy, but when I was changing what I was eating about my second year in college, my skin got better. My digestion got better. And that was my driver. And I was an economics business major. And then I went into grad school and I pursued this profession. While I was going to grad school, I started working at Frito-Lay, delivering Doritos and Ruffles. So if you have questions later, I'm your guy. But I did that for about 6.5 years in the grocery store. And then what you're looking at right now, sure, my wife, Paula, she was here earlier, 42 years with my wife, Paula. I have boy and girl twins. That's my daughter, Kristen, and my son, Matt. They're twins, and they're now going to be 38 in next week. And real quickly, as Jeff mentioned, I'm a grandpa. Paul and I have 5 grandkids and a 6th one on the way. So been doing this a long time, over close to 40 years. I turned 67 in a couple months. So as we go along the way, I just want to understand that everybody's in a different place. And as Jeff mentioned, there's no greater asset to you than your health. And again, perfect storm is you have the financial resources, and you have the health. And me, that personally, in my opinion, is the true wealth. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I want to begin with this. If you want to write down a couple things, like ask the question, what's possible? I'm a big fan about curiosity, asking better questions. So think about that for a minute. How many of you like to have better energy or a better night of sleep? Or maybe you want to get off of medication or craziness, you like to be medicated free. So I always begin when I sit down with clients one-on-one, or I'm talking on a stage or doing a webinar like we are today, I want to plant the seed because the human body is amazing in its ability to heal and self-correct. So that's step number one. Number two is understanding where we are today in our world. The election's coming. The market's doing great right now. Last month it wasn't doing so well. But I think more and more people are running out of capacity. Their cup's overflowing. And so when we talk about this to organizations, like what are we doing for our people? So when you think about this for yourself, is your cup overflowing? Imagine if you had actually a bigger cup. So that's one. Number two, stress has never been higher. Mental health today has never been worse. Very seldom do you hear the word stillness. I'll talk about this as we go today, but we don't have enough stillness. So our phones, our electronics, everybody's busy. Get it? I got it. But stress, talk about that as we go. And then if you think about health in the United States, before the pandemic, it wasn't moving in a great direction, and it's moving in a really poor direction today. And this is globally, not just the United States. But the two things we're not taught in school, and I think all of you would agree. So most of you understand, obviously, you're working with Jeff and his team, but financial illiteracy has never been higher. Not with this crowd I'm talking about today, but most of you get it. Number two, the other thing we're not taught is medical illiteracy. So I would say this crowd on today is a very bright group of people. But when you get into the medical side, most of you have no clue what's going on. So we have a handout. It's called Know Your Numbers. So if you don't have it with you, we'll be sending it post. And all you need to do is take this handout and give it to your doctor. Because like Jeff and his team, they analyze your financial portfolio. You look at your risk. This is what I do for a living. So if you took this to your doctor, got all these numbers, don't understand really what's going on here, feel free to reach out to me. I have book, we have podcasts, we have lots of resources, which I'll follow up with it after this about this. All of you had your cholesterol checked, every one of you. You've had your glucose checked. Talking about Ozempic today and all the stuff that's going, metformin, we've had that. But if you scroll down about the middle of this, circle homocysteine. Homocysteine is one of the greatest indicators of risk for heart disease. There's no medication for it. It's lifestyle. So if that number creeps over 10, we know we're trending in a bad direction. And the number one way to lower homocysteine, which is oxidation, is this thing called carbohydrates. So again, hence, how do we do this? We eat more colorful fruits and vegetables, especially greens. Underneath that's called highly sensitive CRP. That is an inflammation marker. And as I talk about this in a second, we're setting up the perfect storm here. The more inflammation you have, the more disease you have. It's that simple. And last but not least, there's many more here, but I'm just going to cover three of them, is testosterone. So scroll down closer to the bottom, and you'll see total testosterone. Circle that. For women, I like to see total testosterone over 25. And for men, I like to see it over 500. If your testosterone not where it should be, that means you're probably not getting enough rest. You don't have enough recovery. You're not doing the proper eating or the exercise piece. But ladies and gentlemen, you can improve that without taking a bunch of stuff. So hence, if you don't know these numbers, how do you change them? So that's where we come in. We can help you with this. Don't get crazy with this. Just give this to your doctor. Tell them you need these numbers, and we have resources I'll send you afterwards to help you understand them and improve these numbers. All right, so I got that. So what's making in a bad direction? Look at the United States in 1970. This is craziness. I love talking about this. Their is green. That means it's less than 10% obesity. There is no obesity in 1970. So you can't say, hey, Chris, you don't understand. I have this genetics, cholesterol, blood pressure, obesity, whatever. I don't buy it. Everybody's got genetics, but your behavior trumps genetics. Everybody's got it. and that's called epigenetics. That means your behavior does matter. So fast forward 20 years, what do you notice? Hardly any changes in obesity. Like, okay, a little bit more, but not much. But then all of a sudden, the next 10 years, what happens? The South Michigan, I mean, there today. The South and Midwest, percent obesity. Fast forward, what's going on now? The entire nation has over 33% obesity. And if you have kids or grandkids out there like I do, in the next 10 years, we're going to be at 40 plus obesity. That's why Ozempic is going to be the #1 medication in the world in 2 years, because people want to lose weight. So I always ask the question, hey, Chris, you've been doing this 40 years. What's causing the problem? It's pretty simple. Look at this. My wife, I had her reach out the window a handful of years ago, and we're cruising back from Chicago. My daughter lives in Chicago. And I said, hey, honey, there's a billboard coming up. Photo. She said, why do you want this photo? I said, seriously, have you ever seen 4 exits in a 6-mile radius? It gives you an idea what's out there. And then if you go further than this is, and when I travel, I take photos. This is from West Virginia. It's called a Luther burger. It's a Krispy Kreme donut on the top and a Krispy Kreme donut on the bottom, and bacon and cheese in between. You can't make this up. The other one's a picture of Nashville, Tennessee. This is years ago in North Carolina. I thought this was cute. And again, the way gas prices go up and down. But it's everywhere. And last but not least, we don't move. When you put this all together, hence, we're moving in a bad direction. So what do? So if you're going to take notes right now, this is where we begin. #1 thing I want you to write down is you have to be intentional about your health. So write that down. Be intentional about your health. It's no different than working with Jeff and his team. You have to be intentional about your wealth. So that's step #1. When I sit down with a client, don't get crazy. Just get intentional about your health. Okay, got that. #2, you have to be curious. So #2, I want you to write down, ask a better question. So if you looked at this t-shirt, we don't have enough time to get through it, but this is how my clients start. They start with a little baby medication. I got a little acid reflux. And then acid reflux, my blood pressure's creeping up, so they give me a diuretic. And then my diuretic's making my gut unhealthy, and you can see how this starts to snowball. And the average 65-year-old in the United States, can't make this up again, the average 65, 5, not 3, not 4, 5 or more prescription medications. So if your cholesterol's out of balance, your blood pressure's creeping up, step back and say, okay, why is it creeping up? These are the conversations you need to have with your health professional. And that's where we come in. We help you have a better conversations. So imagine going into Jeff and his team, and you have no curiosity, no questions. You're probably not going to have a great meeting. But if you go in there with a little bit more intentional, you're going to ask these questions, you have an incredible meeting, and they're going to have an incredible meeting with you. So that's #2, you ask the question. So if you looked at a typical medicine cabinet, this is what we see. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to tell you to get off of medication. That's not my role at all. My role is to start making you think about this a little bit differently. These are lifestyle medications. They can fit absolutely a need, but they're not fixing the source of the problem. I've never had anybody, write this down, I've never had anybody not cholesterol lowering medications if they're intentional about that, working with their doctor. Not one person. So if you're on a cholesterol medication, you want to get off that, don't jump off. Just start developing these lifestyle habits, but I've never seen anybody not get off it. Type 2 diabetes is not only preventable, it's reversible. I've had clients that A1C is off the charts and they're now back to normal. The human body is amazing in its ability to heal and self-correct. So that's where we ask second point, ask a better question. So here's a question for you. If you have a headache, you have an ibuprofen deficiency. Now, for those of you, I can't see you, that's a joke. But most people, when they think I have a headache, got to reach for some type of anti-inflammatory medication, ibuprofen. Reality is you might be dehydrated. You might be lacking omega-3 fats. And here's the thing I want you to write down. You might be lacking the mineral magnesium. Magnesium helps with headaches. It helps improve blood pressure. Magnesium helps you stay asleep. And magnesium helps control the contraction of the heart. So many people we work with have atrial fibrillation. A lot of it has to do with lack of magnesium. So just note to self, when you start asking these better questions, it's amazing what starts to unravel slowly over time. All right, so number 3, when you think about medicine, but number 3 is about beliefs. You have them, I have them. In fact, my latest book is titled Rest, Eat, and Move. In chapter 6, I wrote a whole chapter on box of beliefs, because if I don't tackle these beliefs, the hand's going to go up. So in my world, the number one weight loss program in the United States today is the keto diet. It's a high fat, basically no carb diet. If people believe that's the way, I'm not going to probably get very far with them. But the results are probably not going to have great gut health. They can't quiet and relax the mind. But again, we have to talk about that. Many people believe today that the best way to lose weight still is more cardiovascular exercise. How many steps can I take? That's important, but that's a very inefficient way to lose weight. And again, as I mentioned earlier, carbohydrates make me fat. In fact, I did a whole little skit on how bananas don't make you fat, but people think they do. So the goal is understanding what's holding you back. What would be some of those beliefs? In fact, we talk about this all the time. I was just talking to Rich before we got on today. We have our own product here, and this is called cod liver oil. And cod liver oil, we get it from Dutch Harbor, Alaska. It's high in vitamin D3. But we do live events. I have it chilled in the back like a fine bottle of wine. I talk about the benefits. And I asked the audience, how many of you believe cod liver oil tastes bad? Raise your hand. So you can do it right now. Raise your hands. Cod liver oil tastes bad. Hands go shooting up. Okay, I got it. Then I asked the second question, how many of you believe it tastes bad? You never had it before. They're like, oh, okay, now you got me. But here's the benefit. So you think, okay, what's the action? The action is 1 tablespoon first thing in the morning. Keep it right in the refrigerator. How simple is that? So that's the action, 1 tablespoon, boom. But here's the results. Brain health, highest source of DHA. Heart health, amazing anticoagulant. Inflammation, so again, no more anti-inflammatory medications anymore over the counter unless you get a bee sting toothache. No more. That's your anti-inflammatory. And last but not least, how many of you like to have better sex hormones? Raise those feet up. Of course you do. That's the big 4. So again, if I don't touch, and then they're going to take the same thing. It's just a little organic lemon. It tastes like a little lemon drop. So that's the key, is how do you get people to just slowly uncover, open up that box, so the belief may be holding them back. Okay, so now you got that. Now we start to sing. So when you think about aging, I love talking about aging. I'm from 70. I get it. I understand it. You know, we're going up north tonight, and we're going to be up there. We have a place up in northern Michigan. And last year, my grandkids says, Grandpa can actually ski pretty good. And I'm thinking to myself, how old do they think I am? So we're all aging. But look at that lifestyle from age 20 to 100. You see a slow decline. We're all declining. Do I hit the golf balls far anymore? Absolutely not. Can I jump when I snow ski? Never intentionally. So I get it. But look at the red line. That's an unhealthy lifestyle. You can do anything you want until about age 40, but look at that drop around age 40, 50. And to me, the bottom is what nobody wants. You got this amazing financial freedom, but you don't have that health. And here's the good news. If you feel like you're kind of going down that path, I'm here to tell you, you cut your hand, what happens to your hand? It heals in a couple of days. No different. I've seen major transformations with people slowly going up, and that's the beauty of the human body and lifestyle changes. So that's what my goal is today. I want you to have this with this amazing wealth. All right, we build your plan. So if you're going to write this down, you could make a little pyramid here, and this is called a self-care pyramid. During COVID, we were playing defense. I love playing offense. That's what you're doing with Jeff and his team. You're playing offense. The bottom is everything to do with rest. That's the hence of our called Rest, Eat, Move. That's the title of my latest book, Rest, Eat, Move. That's where we begin. We begin with rest, and then we move up to eating, and then we will move up to moving. All right, so we're going to start with rest. So here's what I want you to write down. A little on your sheet of paper, I want you to write the top of it is rest. That's what I want you to write down. And everything right now we're going to talk about is rest. So I want to begin with this. Underneath that, I want you to write down stress. And I want you to write down, if that bear is coming through the door, called fight or flight. As human beings, we are designed for acute stress. That's the bear. We are not designed to handle this thing called chronic stress. What's going on in the market? What's going on in the election? What's going on with my family members? So when you think about stress itself, all I want you to understand is this. This is what I'm going to write down. Stress is physical. We get it wrong. Everybody, podcasts, social influence, stress is physical. It doesn't matter whether that threat is real or not. If I feel threatened, the body's going to react physical. Heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, pupils dilate, muscles contract. But the top of this, I want you to look at this. Your digestion begins to change, which compromises your immune system. That's the hazmat suit. So if you don't get this right first, the nutrition is not going to have the same impact or the movement. This is where people get it wrong. You got them to have a healthy immune system. I'll repeat that again. You have to have a balanced nervous system to have a healthy immune system. And that's what I want for everybody. You have an amazing immune system. All the cancer research, medications are all about the immune system. Ladies and gentlemen, we will never be able to keep up. The human body is so much quicker, so much more agile to do this. Let the body do it. How do we do that? So write down stress is physical. Then you have this thing called stressors. Yours, mine, your sick. They're all different. I get it. Write stressors. Then from there, you need to have strategies. And number one, I want you to write down your strategy number one to calm the mind and relax the body is changing how you breathe. Now, believe it or not, this is one of the greatest skills you can learn. And how do you do that? You start with nostrils. The nasal passages are the switchboard for the nervous system. Most of you have never even heard that before. How would you? The right nostril is the sympathetic, and the left nostril is the parasympathetic. Don't make it harder than this. Just breathe through your nose 24/7. Because the more you breathe through the nose, the stronger the nasal passages become. The reason people have problems at night snoring and CPAPs and the list goes on, because they lose that strength of the nostrils. Okay, I got that. Number two, use your belly. This is called two most important muscles in the human body is your heart and the diaphragm. And ladies and gentlemen, as we age, we lose the strength of our diaphragm. So right now, while we're talking, I want you to take your hand and put it right on your belly. Close your eyes only through your nose. And as you take an inhalation, the belly should expand like a balloon. And when you exhale, the belly should come back in. Now let's try that one more time. And let's do a 4-second inhalation. Close your eyes. Breathe through your nose. 4-second inhalation. The belly actually goes out. Then we're going to exhale for 6 seconds. And that will give you about 6 breaths in 1 minute. The average person in the United States breathes over 20 breaths per minute. By doing this little exercise for a minute, your body will slowly start becoming a nasal, belly, slow breather. Okay, so that's it. Nasal, belly, slow breather. Fastest way to calm the mind, relax the body. Number two is we're not sleeping. So again, we talked about Ozempic and all these weight loss and diabetes medications, but the fastest growing medication in the world today, right with diabetes, is sleep. We're not sleeping. And if you're not sleeping, it's the fastest way to age the mind and the body. So a little bit about sleep. Number one. So if you're right now, okay, now we passed breathing. Breathing's all set. Now we go into sleep. Number one thing I want you to understand about sleep, it's not a waste of time. And even though you're aging, I get it. Our sleep efficiency decreases as we age. I don't sleep the same as I did when I was 25. So that means I'm in the bed, so I have more time to sleep. So again, if I get in the bed when I'm 25 and I'm getting in bed for 8 hours, the 8 hours. As we age, we don't. So sleep efficiency is a big deal. So sleep is not a waste of time. It's a little bit more challenging, but it's not a waste of time. So don't think, yeah, I only require 5 hours. Well, not unless you want an unhealthy brain. So when you think about sleep itself, I taught this at college medicine for 10 years at Michigan State University. This was an elective class, believe it or not. I taught this rest, eat, move class for 10 years. Doctors were not taught basically sleep. This elective class. Here's what I'm teaching them. Number one, you have 4 stages of sleep. Stage 1 and 2, you go through very quickly. Stage 3, hey, Chris, you're talking about testosterone. Your testosterone is level too low. I will be asking you about your sleep, because in stage 3 of sleep, deep sleep, that is where your hormones are made. Okay, I got to have my sleep. And last but not least, I want everybody to have an amazing brain as you age. And that happens in stage 4 of sleep. That's called rapid eye movement. That's when we dream. You go through all 4 stages every 90 to 110 minutes. So fellas, if you get out night multiple times to go to the bathroom, I get it. It's okay. You get back to sleep. So again, that's generally what's going to happen every 90 to 110 minutes. But here's the big one. If you're only sleeping 4 hours, you're getting very little REM sleep. So you can tell to get 4 or 5, 6 hours, you can do that, but you're not going to have a great brain. My mother died of Alzheimer's. My mom was not a good sleeper, and she struggled with sleep her whole life. As you get into 6 hours, you don't. Magic pill really is getting closer to that 8-hour range. So if you're sleeping 5 hours, go to 5:30. If you're sleeping 6 hours, 30 minutes. That don't get crazy with it, but the target really should be closer to 8 hours. And make a little note. In 1879, what was invented? The light bulb. And how many hours were we sleeping before the light bulb was invented? 10. What is it today? Less than 6.5. Okay, we're moving in a bad direction. And then from there, understanding how do we improve this? Again, we have a whole podcast came out this morning, Rest, Eat, Move, and it's all about sleep. Check it out today, free your podcast. It came out today on sleep, but the big one is planning your sleep. What's your environment look like? There's a big talk a lot about darkness, temperature. I'm a big fan of getting your temperature cooler, not be cold in the bed, but cooler. Magnesium's the mineral relaxation. That's why I'm a big fan of magnesium foods, Epsom salt baths. And then what you're going to hear in the podcast is, how are you landing the plane at night? Are you abruptly crashing it? I've just watched some type of Netflix or I'm on my emails, or do you slowly land the plane gently? That's the key. Because if you're landing it abruptly, you're going to wake up and you won't get back to sleep. So that's the big deal before you go to bed. How are you landing the plane? If you ask any of my clients, they're going to, Chris is going to teach you, he's going to teach you how to land that plane. So sleep's a big deal. And last but not least, write down pace and space of your life. Do you love life? And do you have enough space to handle that? Both of my kids are going to have kids. Their pace of their life is in craziness. I get it. I went through it. My pace of my life is so good, but I'm in a different season of my life. But give yourself enough space to handle the pace. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Look at this in 1940. You see the white space? That's when your memories are going to be made. And I got to tell you, my mother, she lived with us her last 6 months of her life. All she wanted to talk about is her memories. That's what you and that's what myself will talk about at the end of life. We'll talk about memories, and they're made during the white space. Fast forward 2007, 2008, you can see here comes the electronics. We understand that survival time, taking care of the kids, showering, eating. But this, okay, we're sleeping less than 6.5 hours. We have very little space. Our pace is too high. No wonder we have mental health issues. This is what we have to do a little bit differently, everybody. And it begins with this, giving yourself some micro breaks during the day. So micro break is a 30-second to 90-second break. Come up for air, take a break, stretch, breathe, go for a little walk, drink some water, reset. We need to have a medium break, get a massage, Epsom salt baths. This is how, if you looked at every professional athlete, the NBA playoffs, WNBA is going on right now. Every athlete is all about rest and movement. It's got to have that recovery. And last but not least, this is what I'm doing in the next 3 months. I'm going up to Northern Michigan, and I'm going to recharge my batteries. I'm writing a new book. Everybody needs a little bit. That might not be like that. This is the first time I've ever done this, so I'm so excited about it. But the goal is we need to recharge our batteries. And last but not least on this is close the door to the end of your day. Give yourself some time to recharge your batteries. Get off no states, hopefully, that I'm talking to right now. We need to allow the body and the mind to take a break. All right, so quick review onto the rest. Stress is physical. What are your stressors that keep you up at night? How do you change how you breathe? That's the greatest skill I can teach you today. Nasal, belly, slow breathing. Understand the power of sleep. Do not hack your sleep. There's no such thing. Don't listen to social influence about hacking your sleep. And do you have enough space to handle the pace of your life? All right, we're switching gears here. Now I'm going to write down eating. And again, we could spend all day on this subject. I want to make this really simple today. Number one is understand this thing called pH balance. I alluded to it earlier. As you make your body more alkaline, you become healthier. Acid, write this down. Acid equals inflammation. As I mentioned earlier, every disease known in the human race is based on too much inflammation. Processed foods, too much alcohol, too much caffeine, too much protein. People are like, oh, I need more protein. Nah, be careful. That's called an amino acid. We need enough protein. We don't need too much. Stress is the killer. Changing how you breathe is the fastest way to make your body more alkaline. So if I do my nasal, belly, slow breathing, instantly start moving my body over that. And what makes the body, food standpoint, carbohydrates, especially fruit, water with lemon. These are all ways to make the gut more alkaline. And as your gut gets better, you get better. That's where it rolls. That's where we begin. The second is the source. Where does it come from? We could talk about GMOs and organic and reading labels. We can do all that. But just write down what's the source. Nothing's off limits. So if you looked at an apple is a symbiotic. It means it's a probiotic, it's a prebiotic, it's amazing for gut health. So I want to consume apples a couple, 3 or 4 times a week. Now we can move into, you're not going to want to feed this to your kids, but you could do it. But again, it's going to cost more and you're losing some of the benefits. And this is the craziest thing. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, apple cider vinegar gummies. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, there is no apple cider vinegar in the gummy. So we got to get away from thinking something's bad. If it's close to the source, nothing's off limits. If you like a creamer in your coffee, get a better creamer. If somebody says, I can't eat a banana, understand it is the source. So remember, the source, what's it doing to your pH? Now I have a little background and where do I go from the food standpoint? And it begins with this. So if you're writing little notes here, write down your garden is your gut. Your gut is a garden. So if you're going to get a healthy gut, you have to begin understanding the garden. Healthy soil, plant the healthy seeds. You got to water it and give it some sun. No different. So when I work with a client, once we get the nervous system under balance, it's the breathing, it's the understanding the space and the pace and sleeping. Now we start working on the gut. And let's just stop for just a second. People ask me all the time, hey, Chris, you'd be taking melatonin. And I say, well, let's back up. Let's get into some questions here. What is melatonin? It's a sleep hormone that helps us. And it naturally, if you have a dog or a cat at home, they naturally stimulate melatonin when it starts getting dark out and they fall asleep. Okay. We don't do that. We kind of away all that stuff because we got the electronics, we got the Netflix going on. But in the gut is where melatonin is made. And it comes from a neurotransmitter called serotonin. That is our happy neurotransmitter. If you don't have a healthy gut, the body doesn't make enough serotonin, which serotonin makes melatonin. You see how it starts to roll. So if you're having trouble, the first thing I started to do, get the nervous system balanced, but then we're going to start working on the gut. And this all starts to connect. All right, understand, they're connected. They're not two different oceans. The brain and the gut are completely connected. So if you're trying to have better mental, you got to have better gut health. And then we begin with hydration. Make this so simple today. Write down 50 ounces of water is your minimum a day. Don't get crazy with this. If I said half your body weight, you're probably not going to do it. 50 ounces every day. If that's your minimum, you're going to be good. Number 2, I'm a huge fan of adding lemon to your water once a day. Lemons are very alkalizing by digestion. You got acid reflux out there, you got gut issues, put a lemon in your water first thing in the morning. And whatever beverage you like, how do you make that a little better? If you like coffee, 2 cups or less. Nothing more than that. You're not going to have a good gut health. If you put a creamer in your coffee, get a better creamer. I'm going to have a brand favorite handout I'll be sending after this. So now you can, like, next time I go to the store, I'm going to get a better creamer. Not telling you to get rid of the creamer, just make it better. And I'm also a big fan of herbal teas, alcohol, whatever beverage you like, make that a little bit better. Number 2, what nutrients are you missing? I mentioned it earlier. Write this down. Omega-3 fat. 95%. This is a crazy number. 95% of the American population is deficient in omega-3 fats. Brain health, heart health, inflammation, hormones, everything that goes with that. All right. Dad, are you consuming omega-3 fats? Now you know. Go to our website. I'm interested in this. Buy this. 1 tablespoon, little commercial here, away we go. If you got kids at home, 1 level for DHA and brain health, give them, I do the same thing. We call it muscle juice at our house. Lemon, keep it in the refrigerator. The other 2 are flax seeds and chia seeds. I'm a big fan of flax seeds. I don't really like chia that much, but I'll eat it. But flax seeds and cod liver oil are huge omega-3 fats. All right, moving over to the other side. Chlorophyll, anything dark green. The darker the green, the more oxidation goes on, the better gut health, better energy. So I'm a big fan of spirulina chlorella. That's these little tablets you see. There's nothing cheaper. You don't chew the tablets. You chew them once, you won't chew them again. You start out with 10 tablets a day. They're tiny, you'll get it, and you wash them down with water. It's a multivitamin on steroids. Super cheap, about 35, 40 cents a day, coming from the source. It's a natural detoxifier. That's why you don't jump into a whole bunch of them. So I don't want to get an email from you or a call. You just start slowly, let the body build up to it. It's incredible for the immune system. And the other thing you're looking at, this is an ice cube that comes directly to your house. It comes frozen. You put it in a glass of water. It's the highest source of minerals. So let's make this simple today. I drink 50 ounces of water every day. Got it. Maybe a little bit of lemon. Perfect. Omega-3 fat. Do my cod liver oil first in the morning. I do my spirulina chlorella. Easy. Done. Now from there, I move into my food. Now, if you do not have this food target, we will be sending this out to you. I designed this, believe it or not, in 1994. I worked at one of the largest health clubs in the world on a diet, so confused about it. It's so simple. The red area is the processed foods. The green area is the whole. Have a 21-day challenge you eat in the 2 centers of the target. It's free. I'll send that link to you. Check that out. So the goal of this is understanding the top is carbohydrates. The bottom 2 quadrants are fats and protein. These are called macronutrients. And here's the takeaway. If you take a macronutrient out of the diet, you will have a macro problem. Got it? So in the 70s and 80s, we took out fat. That was a disaster. In the 90s and the 2000s, it was all about the protein. Eat the burger, but not the bun. And today, it's all about the fat and no carbs. You need them all. So don't let anybody tell you you need healthy fats, especially for your hormones. You need healthy proteins to stabilize your blood glucose level, build your body, and you need carbohydrates for energy and gut health, and it helps to build, that helps you be happy. Sure you're combining all 3 of these. So really, what is a carbohydrate? Most people have no clue. A carbohydrate is a sugar. That's what it is. It's a sugar linked together, but they're different. Now, my wife has a large Lebanese family. We all get it, but not all the family members are equal. In a sense, they're not all nice. They're not no different than carbohydrates. You have processed carbohydrates. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the source. Fruits, vegetables, grain like oatmeal. I'm a huge fan. I have oatmeal on the run almost every morning. This is not the processed oatmeal. This is a real deal. Potatoes, because they're high, boost serotonin, make my brain happy, and I love them. And last but not least, be legumes. So again, these are your carbohydrates. Then from here, we build the body with protein. You can get it from plant and animal. And people ask me all the time, "Hey, Chris, do you eat animal protein?" The answer is yes. If I can get organic chicken and wild Alaskan salmon, I'm doing it. But I also get a lot of protein from nuts and seeds. I use hemp seeds, Brazil nuts, pumpkin seeds, macadamia nuts. I'm always using nuts and seeds. So again, it's not hard to do, but it's more intentional about getting. I'm not going to buy at 7-Eleven just because it's protein. So it's no different. We're trying to make the source better. And last but not least is healthy fats. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the number one way to improve inflammation, hormonal balance, improve your cholesterol profile, and getting the healthy fats. So I'm going to start with this. Saturated fat. One of the greatest, healthiest saturated fats is called coconut. I put it in my oatmeal almost every day. You can cook with it. Coconut's incredible. Then I move into monounsaturated fats. They're incredible for your blood pressure. Macadamia nuts, almonds, avocados, extra virgin olive oil. And then we move to polyunsaturated fats, which I've already talked about. Right? Cod liver oil, flax seeds, and omega-6s, pumpkin seeds, Brazil nuts. If you just throw those in your diet occasionally, get a little variety, you are covering all the gamut of these healthy fats, and that's what improves your blood tests. And last but not least, I'll mention about food is fasting. I'm a huge, huge fan of fasting. Now, here's where I think we get it wrong as a society. We are shrinking our eating time way too much. I'm a big fan of 14 hours overnight, 12 to 14 hours. So if I eat at 7 p.m., I don't eat again until 9 a.m. But I'm not sure waiting till noon or 1 o'clock because now I'm shrinking my time of eating. So again, now we start missing nutrients. So I want you to clean the body, but don't do it excessively. If you want to fast longer occasionally, I think it's fantastic, but you kind of have to know what you're doing because it detoxifies, but it also depletes the body of minerals. All right, so from here, now we're in the last section. So write down move. Here's your move section. And here's the big takeaway in movement. Motion creates positive emotion. Now, Rich has seen me speak many times with Victory Capital that when I get off, we get up, music's going, rock concert, we're moving. I'm trying to get that emotion up. So remember, if you're trying to improve your emotion for your brain, your mind, you need to get motion. Don't think of exercise. I didn't write down exercise. I wrote down move. That's what the big difference here. I want you to move. And if you think about, we're all losing the battle of gravity. So try this exercise sometime today. So write this down, a standing wall extension. So you stand against the wall, put your heels against the wall, your rear end, your shoulders, and your head. If you can line everything up, and then you can raise your arms overhead. This is incredible for your posture because we're all losing that battle of gravity. So if you have neck issues, maybe your rotator cuff's bothering your back, this is where we begin. So I'm going to send you a quick video of 3 easy stretches that you can do every day that takes about 90 seconds, no equipment required, to help with your posture. I'm a huge fan of this. So there's 3 exercises I'll share with you. It's a standing wall posture, up dog, down dog, standing, and a half moon against the wall. All right. On the back of your handout, if you don't have this today, we'll be sending this, and I'll also send you a link to the video of showing you how to do these exercises. And this is called dynamic warm-up. This will take you about 2 to 3 minutes. Just if you don't have enough time, I'm going to start with that. Number 2, this is called foundation movements. These are just a bunch of yoga poses on strength, balance. Balance is a big deal. Flexibility, about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. So again, easy things to do. The goal is people to move. And then from there, if you're putting it all together, where people get it wrong, in my opinion, is they do way too much cardio. You can never diet. I want you to walk. I want you to bike. I am a big fan of a mini trampoline. I want you to do all that kind of stuff. Strength training is the fountain of youth. If you're not strength training and you're on this today and you're over 50, that should be your next intentional way to move, because strength training is the fountain of youth. We need to maintain our muscle as we age. And last but not least here, we need to play. Play. Pickleball, golf, tennis, snow skiing, water skiing, whatever you do. I'm hiking here in Utah. to find more time to play. I've actually a whole chapter in my book about play, because what happens when we play, time disappears. We're happy, we're having fun, laughter. It's funny when I'm watching pickleball today and many of the seniors are playing, and what do you hear? You hear laughter. You hear engagement. We need to do more of that. It doesn't have to be so drudgery, so militant. We need to move the body on a regular basis, because motion creates positive emotion. If you could put movement in a pill, all would agree it'd be the most prescribed medication on the planet. But why aren't we moving? We make it too hard. We don't need to. We just need to think about moving intentionally. All right, so as we wrap this up, we're going to do a little Q&A in just a second. Under the resting, what's your big takeaway? I'm a big fan of doing one step at a time. What's your big takeaway? Number one, you might recognize, maybe I'm a little bit on edge more often. What things are really bothering? Are they really coming alive? Are you opening the bottle of wine before it's time? So again, think about that. Are you really working on your breathing? I'm a huge fan of learning how to use that diaphragm, because as the diaphragm gets weak, we can't breathe like we used to. And then maybe an Epsom salt bath, or taking a massage, or maybe more intentional about your sleep. Whatever it is, I want you to really think about what's your one thing. Under the eating, mine always begins with water. So if you're saying, hey, what's my one thing under nutrition? Let's focus on your water. Don't make it more than that. Or you know what, Chris, I'm not doing that omega-3 fat. Maybe I'm going to start doing that cod liver oil. I'm really interested in that. Or more intentional about fasting overnight, so it allows my body to clean itself. So whatever it is, what's your one thing? And last but not least, under the movement. Could be starting out, I'll send some videos. Maybe we're going to do some exercising or movement that allows me to consistently do this. Or you know what? I got some restorative movements that make you feel good. Ankle flexibility, elbows, shoulders, back. I'll send that also. So again, you'll have some resources that makes the body hum. And that's the key. You want to feel good as we age. So that is my direct email. So write that down. My name, Chris Johnson at ontargetliving.com. Our podcast comes out every Wednesday morning. It's titled Rest, Eat, Move. My latest book, Rest, Eat, Move. So if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. And most of the time, I probably will get you on the phone. So again, I'm happy to help you. You don't have to cross this bridge by itself. And last but not least, in my book, the last section, I talk about the climb. The greatest part of any journey, it's not about planting the flag at the end of the mountain or the top of the mountain. It's always about the journey. That's the best stuff. So I really think about, when you think about lifestyle changes, you don't have to get crazy with it, but we slowly start building this journey, because when you feel good, you are good. And I think people want to feel better. And if you looked at the journey of change, this is how it begins. Hey, I'm listening to this webinar today or watching this. That's the honeymoon stage. Then the honeymoon quickly disappears. And then people disappear into this thing called the valley of despair. I give up. 2 weeks from now, I'm not paying attention to it. But here's the kicker. You start building a habit. And here's what I want you to write down about a habit. It has to have a place and a time. Your habits have a place and a time. If you're saying, hey, I'm trying to do this cod liver oil, when am I going to do it? The time is first thing in the morning. The place, it's in my refrigerator. If you're going to move your body, when are you going to do it? Where are you going to do it? So again, as you develop a habit, one step at a time, find that place and the time, and then it turns into a ritual and you don't think about it. If I ask you the question, how many of you put your right shoe on first today? How many have no clue what shoe went on first? But you look down and see two shoes. You get up and take a shower sometime today or tomorrow. Are you washing your left arm first or your right arm first? You don't even think about it. These are all habits. We all have them. So again, start slowly, build a habit along the way. And I'll end with this. Here's a picture of my father. I lost him 13 years ago, and he was my guy. Great with my kids, great listener. This man was funny. My dad was not a healthy guy. I did everything in my power to try to make him be healthier. But here's the two mistakes I made with my father. Number one, I overwhelmed him. Always was trying to get him to do different stuff. Don't do this to yourself. Don't do it to others. And number two, I told my dad all the time how much I loved him, but I rarely told him how much I need him. That's my message for this holiday weekend. Tell everybody in your world how much you need them. And don't forget how much you're needed. All right, so with that being said, the Q&A is open.
Chris, thank you. I can tell you firsthand, a lot of that really hit home. You know, just personally speaking, I'm in the younger side of parenthood. I've got 4 kids between the age of 6 and 12. I'm sure, you know, a lot of the reasoning behind, or I'd say the excuses that are provided in terms of why people behaviorally do the things that they do is time, you know, time and convenience. So I like that you spoke about creating those habits and you know, I guess trying to work on specific focuses, not trying to encompass everything all at once, but
And I think that
step by step.
is on one thing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Let me ask something. One thing that I mean, I've heard from friends. I've even utilized it a time or two, but with sleep, and I'm very familiar with sleep and sleep patterns, but theta waves or just a background noise, white noise, whatever it may be. Have you heard of, like, when I've heard stories about when theta waves are playing, it helps with sleep and deep sleep, and even I've heard stories where the dreams are much more vibrant.
Yeah, I'm a big, that white noise, whatever works for you, but I'm a huge fan of that. I think that's really powerful, whether it's a fan or, some type. I have a fan. Sometimes I'll use, I just have a noise machine. Sometimes I like to listen to the waterfall. So I'm a huge fan of that. When I travel, I'm in a lot of hotels over the last probably 15 years. I've got 2 million miles on Delta. So when I travel, I take white noise with me. And I really like that a lot. And then it's interesting, like when we're up north, we leave the windows open and we can just hear the lake. It's just all these little things that make you really make the mind calm down. So I'm a huge fan of that. I think that's very beneficial for people. And I'm a huge fan of darkness. The darker it
Yeah,
is, allows the brain to kind of completely chill out. So yeah, those are all little tips that really make a difference.
yeah, perfect. We've got a question here. You know, focusing on youth, you know, to piggyback what I had just referenced, but other ideas, you know, let's say you have, I mean, kids can be very picky eaters, and again, convenience factor. Sometimes parents tend to go with the path of least resistance. Any recommendations or other healthy habits for kids other than
Yeah, I think for
the
the kids is it's interesting. My daughter both have young kids, and it's interesting. It is survival. So I don't want to be like, oh, you got to do this, but it's interesting when the kids have rest, they get to play, and they're fed better, they behave better. So for me, when we just watched the grandkids, we had 3 of them for 5 days, and I get up in the morning. We have a special needs granddaughter in the middle, and we get up, and the first thing I'm doing is I'm feeding them, a smoothie, and then we're doing oatmeal. And again, these are easy things, doesn't take a lot of time and energy. So it's just being more intentional. And sometimes you just have to survive. So then I'm going to buy things that are going to be a little bit better on the brand favorite handout. So if I'm buying macaroni and cheese, I'm going to get a better macaroni and cheese. So you don't have to get crazy with this, but understand that fuel is really important and then really work with them. For example, for us is like, what do they really like? And then experiment. Let their palate get a little different. Because if they don't, they'll eat pizza, chicken McNuggets, and macaroni until the cows come home. So for me, I'm always trying to experiment, give them different things, let them try different things. And, sometimes you just have to kind of like be firm, like, hey, well, I'm not a short order cook. This is what you get. And again, it's tough love, but it's no different. You wouldn't let your kids drink bleach. So why are we giving poison in other areas? So if they like Fruit Loops, let's get a better breakfast cereal. That's the message I always try to with parents. Because again, I've been there before. Sometimes it's survival time, but it takes a little bit intentional. But when you're grocery shopping, you're getting better products, you're feeling better about it, and then you're giving them the resources. You got fruit here, eat a banana and a couple nuts.
yeah, perfect.
That's it. Here we go.
So I think everyone's familiar with just the water quality issues that have taken place throughout the country, and you go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's, somebody's trying to come to your home to test your water and sell you on the idea of a water purification system, for the house, purifying the water that you shower and everything in between. What are your thoughts there?
Well, ionizer at home, it's 2 filters, and it's just for drinking water. And I really think I'm a big fan of that. People buy reverse osmosis. If you do buy reverse osmosis, you need to get some type of drops to make your water more alkaline, because reverse osmosis is going to be more on the acid side. So if you're interested in a water filtration system, I recommend a water ionizer. The second piece is I would recommend some type of portable filter, whether it's on your refrigerator or like a smart water or Brita water filter. I would recommend something for that for your water, because again, we have too much medications in our water today, too much chlorine in our water. So you don't have to go crazy with it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of getting your water tested once a year. And then, do you need purification for the entire house? I don't necessarily think that's you don't have to start there. I would just start with some really water filtration system at home. And again, it could be a portable that doesn't cost hardly anything. You could get a water ionizer, a really good one, for about $750. Some of these other water filtration systems are $5,000. They're just not necessary. So if you have any questions on that, I can guide you. But I think it's a big deal, because that's what we're doing all the time. We're drinking water. And, I'm from Michigan with a Flint water disaster. I get all that. So I'm a big fan of like wherever I'm at. And then if I'm buying water, which again, when I'm traveling, I'll buy mineral water, I'll buy spring water, or I'll buy artesian water. I'm not buying, Dasani or Aquafina, which is our purified water. So if I'm going to buy water, I'm going to buy artesian, spring, or mineral water. Those are your options when you're out and about.
Okay, nice. How about you talked about knowing, know the source. A lot of vegetables, fruits from grocery stores. Do you recommend soaking them, washing them, removing any pesticides that could be present?
Well, yeah, and everybody's in a different place, but when I think about organic, if I'm going to buy organic produce, it's everything that's got a skin on it. So everybody's in a different place. Start off with vegetables, but then as time goes on, I'm going to probably try to get closer to, if I can get local, organic, I'm going to do that. And certain things don't need to be bought organic, like bananas or avocados, because they have skins on them. So whatever has a skin, that's where you begin. And then the things that, if you're not buying them organic and they have a skin on them, then you definitely want to wash them. And you wash them anyway. But if I'm eating strawberries or blueberries or apples or lettuce, I'm buying that organically when I can. If not, I'm going to really wash it well. But that's where you begin.
Okay, perfect. How about a couple quick tips in just controlling stress? We know time is short in this busy world, but quick, easy tips in just lowering the blood pressure, controlling
Yes,
stress.
I think the biggest thing when I start with people, and I coach a lot of people in this space, but I really look at their schedule and the pace of their life. Because if that's sideways, they're not going to have time to do anything. They're not going to have time to be intentionally about their movement. They're not going to be intentional about what they're eating. So I really look at their calendars. And we all know when you have nothing going on, like if you have nothing going on this holiday weekend, how would you feel? That's the space we need. So that's the first thing I start with, is look at your pace and your space. And sometimes that's hard, but sometimes we need that reset button. We need that space in our life. Then from there, it's really simple. I go right into the breathing, understanding how do you get more stillness. We don't have enough stillness in our world. Like when I walk my dog Floyd out, I'm not taking my phone with me. I'm putting that phone away. I don't have that
Yeah.
phone in my bedroom at night. So when I go to bed at night, my phone is in the bathroom. It's not in the bedroom. And as I mentioned earlier, when I'm landing the plane, I'm going to bed, that thing is slowly going down. So these are all ways to think about, how do you create more stillness in the mind? And the brain needs that. That we know that with the science and all the mental health stuff we're dealing today, we don't have enough stillness. So it
Yeah.
really begins with your calendar, begins with breathing, gives micro breaks, medium breaks. That's where it all begins.
Almost almost transition that to ask, and if there were any apps or pieces of technology that helps you kind of manage whether it be a diet or your calendar, but then you're again going back to that technology. So it's like,
Well, I think technology, the wearables today are pretty amazing. We have our own app. It's called My OTL app, and we have all sorts of stuff in it. It's really a nice app. And there's many, like for example, Calm's one out there for, relaxing, and there's tons of apps out there. But I also look at wearables as like training wheels. It's no different than what you do in the market, and that your financial expertise is they're just guidelines. But the human body, once you I try to teach my clients that that's training wheels, but I kind of know your blood pressure, your heart rate, the breaths. You start being more aware of that, and that's called your body's always talking back. And I wrote a whole chapter in my book, chapter 31. It's how to listen to the body, and the body's going to talk back. So that's where I like the wearables at the beginning. That creates that awareness. But then from there, how many steps are you walking a day? How many calories do you eat? That's good, but you don't necessarily need to know that, because as you teach people that, they kind of instinctively know that. So I'm not a big fan of calorie counting. I want awareness. I'm not a big fan of counting my steps. I'm aware that I know I need to probably do 10,000 steps or more, but I think that's good at the beginning, and then over time, you want to teach the body to instinctively, understand that. But sometimes we get so busy in our lives, we are just immune to that. We're numb to it. And I think
yeah,
that's where you begin with lifestyles. You have to teach people how to listen to their body and their mind.
yeah, very nice. How about again, people look and these social medias sites tend to have different trends that are flavor of the month or flavor of the year. A lot of what I've seen or heard is whether it be ice baths or cold showers. Do you have anything on that?
Oh yeah. So hot and cold therapy is, at our health club way back in the day, our club opened in January of 1991, and we had these things called a cold plunge. And I would tell my clients one of the greatest things you can do is take a hot shower and go in the cold plunge. And they're like, I'm not getting in that thing. It's 48, 49 degrees. I'm like, well, it's help for recovery, whatever. And then he gets on Joe Rogan, and the list goes on, and now everybody's doing it. I mean, at our club, the cold plunge is packed all the time. So I
Yeah.
am a huge fan of hot and cold therapy. I have an infrared sauna up at our place up in northern Michigan. Um, I'll be doing that this week. But here's how I like to do it when you don't have all these things. Just do a hot and cold shower. Start out with a warm or hot shower, and then make your shower cool, 15 seconds, and then go back to the warm or the hot, and then go 15 seconds more, but now I'm making it a little colder, and I go back and forth, and then slowly I'm spending more time in the cold. And that's a great way, because what you're doing is you're changing the blood flow to the extremities, to the organs, and that's really beneficial for the immune system. So I'm a big fan of that, but I don't need to start my morning out and sit in a cold plunge for 15 minutes and look at Winhoff. I mean, the guy looks like he's 100 years old, and he's not that old. So there's but there's also, we get into these extremes. So again, I love hot and cold therapy. I think it's a great way, and I'm also a big fan of the infrared sauna and massage. I think massages are great for your immune system, lymphatic system. So those are just all things, but the goal is how do you develop a lifestyle that you embrace and that you enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that actually speaks to something that I recently learned. So, we tell the kids, I coach baseball, youth baseball, and it's a long day of maybe 3 games in a day, and you got a break, and it's not so much the pool and the swimming that wears them down. It's the hot to cold that changes their digestive system and kind of wears them down a bit from that perspective. I mean, that's at
Yeah,
least how it was
it's a good
explained to
thing.
me. Yeah,
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 it's a good
it is.
thing. Yeah, it helps her digest everything. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. If we can get our kids to be a little uncomfortable sometimes, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah,
wrong with being uncomfortable.
yeah. No, I hear you. Um, I guess last we could take one more question, then come full circle. But a lot of the focus here is on diet and behavioral um, just lifestyle changes. Other countries out there, they're not on that sort of obesity track that the U.S. has kind of been the past, decade to I guess 10 to 20 years back even. What is it that other countries are doing differently, or is it specific to the U.S., or are there other countries that are kind of on that same trajectory?
No, I think you're asking a great question. If you really if you looked at the blue zones, how people live their lives and they age well and whatever, and if you look around countries around the world, I mean, the United States, we're not even the top 25 from a healthcare standpoint. So we spend the most in the world on healthcare, and we're not even the top 25. So really what we're looking at right now, and anybody that's really adopting of the United States lifestyle per se, our food system's a mess. Our pace of our life is too. We don't sleep. I mean, you could see this perfect storm hitting us. We're the only country in the world that advertises pharmaceuticals on TV. The other one is New Zealand, but New Zealand advertises from an educational standpoint. We market from a marketing standpoint. So it's interesting. Not one country in the world, not one, is advertising pharmaceuticals except New Zealand. And again, as I mentioned, they're educating the people about the medications that they might be taking. So there's a lot of reasons. Our food system. I mean, if you go in the grocery stores, I worked there for 8 years. All the inside of the grocery store is just complete garbage. And so when you look at the grocery stores itself, who's buying what and what, and where the profit all lives is as we get away from the source. So if you have a tomato, it's cents, pennies. But then if we convert that tomato into salsa or ketchup, you can see how it starts to roll. Or like oatmeal, there's nothing cheaper than oatmeal. People are like, oh, it costs more money to eat healthy. Well, sometimes it does, but most of the time it doesn't. But I can get the real thick rolled oats, the real deal, not bleached and anything else. It's pennies. But if you buy a box of cereal, it's $5, $6, $7. So you can see why it's easy. And then fast food's everywhere. I mean, during the pandemic, people are just losing their mind about this. I mean, Chick-fil-A, I was driving in our area, they were having police out there to try to deal with traffic. So that's what we have to understand. We need to be intentional about this, because if we don't, we're going to go to the easiest, least resistance, cheapest food, easy fast food. The list goes on, and that's where we're moving. And then it's easy not to move. We're knowledge workers today in our world. We're not have to do much physical activity. I don't have to walk to work. I don't have to do much. So it's a perfect storm. And now countries that are following the United States are seeing the same exact problems. And one last thing here. If you think about type 2 diabetes, in 1960, you can't make this up, 1 in 4,000 people had type 2 diabetes in 1960. It has nothing to do with genetics. Today, it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. We're moving in a bad direction.
Yeah.
And it's really about being intentional about your health. If I don't buy that fast food will disappear. Somebody's buying it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great segue to wrap things up. And I would really appreciate your time, Chris. And I know you'll be sending some material our way, or we already have it, and we'll be
I'll
passing it along
I'll
to
send you
clients.
some more stuff. Yep.
Okay.
And again, just if you guys have any questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. No one have to take this journey by yourself. It's not easy to navigate today. Happy to help.
I personally learned a lot. I'm sure our clients learned a lot. As in reference, I was taking notes along with everyone else. So
one step.
Yep, one step. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Again, I appreciate it. Thank you, Rich, if you're still on at Victory. And until we meet again, take care.
Have a good holiday, everybody. See ya. Yep. Bye-bye.